Cloudy at 55 degrees. So by the end of the 10 o'clock hour, we're expecting to see temperatures into the 60s, maybe a few 70s, and we carry on through about noontime or so, and by then we should see 80s, maybe even a few 90s later this afternoon. Red indicating 90-degree readings. We're really not getting out of the low 90s today, just a few spots topping out to the 90s. Pretty much everybody else inland into the 80s and around the bay expecting 70s with 60s at the coast. So let's get a look at the numbers. Santa Rosa 82, 80 for Novato, 67 for Richmond, 65 for downtown San Francisco, 73 for Vallejo, 90 for Concord. The South Bay pretty much into the 80s, could potentially reach 90 in Morgan Hill. And as we head over to Oakland, 70, 74 Hayward, and 79 in Fremont. A look at your 7-day around the bay. You'll see right here we're gradually going to warm it up through the weekend, then cool it down one more time as we head into your work week. Daria.
All right, thanks a lot, Evelyn.
It looks like here's Evelyn Taft.
Good morning, George. And we're taking a look at San Jose right now. Actually seeing a little more sunshine mixed in with a little bit of fog traffic right there, moving a little slowly, but other than that, doing just fine this morning. 59 degrees currently in San Jose, so still waiting to warm up. 81 by noontime, 83 will be your afternoon high by 8 o'clock, back down to about 72 degrees. So let's get right to Futurecast 4. It's set for the end of the 10 o'clock hour, and you're going to see 60s along with a few 70s, maybe even a few 80s. A little bit of a stretch, I would say 70s and 60s. By noontime, we're expecting 70s, 80s, could get up to the 90s after lunchtime. And by 4 o'clock this afternoon, low 90s inland, 80s around the bay, along with 70s and 60s by the coast. A look at all your forecast highs. The North Bay into the 80s, the Bay into the 60s, 65 for San Francisco, 67 for Richmond, 90 for Concord, 73 for Vallejo. The South Bay into the 80s, reaching 90 for Morgan Hill, and the East Bay into the 70s, 80s, and 90s. 93 Livermore, 92 in Antioch. And a look at your 7-day around the bay. You'll see right here we are expecting to see a little bit of a warm up into the weekend, then a bit of a cool down as we head into the work week. James?
10:08 is the time right now. Interested to see how the temperatures are coming along, if they're heating up yet, or we're going to wait until later on in the afternoon, because we're not going to get as hot today. Hi, Evelyn.
We're not going to get as hot. Good morning, Daria. Let's check out those temperatures on Storm Tracker 4, see where we're at right now. Dealing with a little bit of cloud cover, but also dealing with clear conditions in some spots. SFO, you've cleared out, and you're no longer experiencing delays on arriving flights. 61 degrees now currently. Livermore, you've been clear all morning, and you're up to 68. Oakland, though, still cloudy at 66. And San Jose seeing a mix of haze, cloud cover, and sunshine this morning. Over to Santa Rosa, still foggy, but you're up at 53, and Napa cloudy at 58. So by the end of the 10 o'clock hour, this hour actually, we're expecting more 60s, but we can also see a few 70s, getting very close through your inland areas right now. By noontime, expecting 70s with a few 80s in store. And then by 3 o'clock this afternoon, we're topping out not only into the 80s, we could potentially get into the low 90s through your inland valleys. You'll see just that as Futurecast 4 fast forwards to about the 3-4 o'clock hour. It'll stop right there. You'll see a bit of red. You'll see orange indicating 80s, and you'll see yellow indicating 70s, 60s at the coast, and 60s through the northern portions of the peninsula, mainly through the city, through South San Francisco. By the time we get to San Mateo, Redwood City, we'll see 70s, upper 70s as well. So 78 for San Rafael, 82 for Santa Rosa, noticeably cooler for the North Bay, 65 for the city, 67 for Richmond, 70 for Oakland, 79 for Fremont, and 90 for Morgan Hill, potentially getting to 93 in Livermore and 92 in Antioch. And a look at your 7-day around the bay. You'll see right here we're going to continue to keep it a little warmer through the weekend, but then the real cool down hits as we enter next week. Daria.
All right, thanks a lot. Yesterday, Evelyn, the gusts were up to 50 miles an hour.
Those winds, when they pick up, they really gust, and it's those warm, dry winds that come from inland, so they're compressed, and once they hit, that's what happens. They're very gusty, they're very hot, and they're very dry. So Southern California dealing with that today. For us here at home, though, a very different story. Not even really looking at any breeze. No offshore winds by the coast, just looking at a little bit of a sea breeze, bringing in that cloud cover. We're still seeing cloudy conditions around the bay, at the coast, inland spots free and clear of that cloud cover. North Bay valleys, though, still a little foggy this morning. We're up to 53 in Santa Rosa. By noontime, though, you'll be at 80 in your afternoon a high 82 degrees. So just a little cooler for you today. You're really going to feel the difference if you're in the North Bay. By 8 o'clock down to about 73 degrees. So let's get a look at Futurecast 4. Actually, before we get there, want to get a look at Walnut Creek this morning. We're at 60 degrees. And your afternoon high today, 91. By 8 o'clock down to about 80 degrees. So still hot inland, just not as hot as we've been used to. We're not looking at triple-digit readings, not even readings into the upper 90s, just a few low 90s for you. So by the end of the 10 o'clock hour, you're going to see right here, we're expecting 60s, a few 70s. We're in the 60s now, already seeing 70s for the Delta. We'll see a few more 70-degree readings in a matter of 20-30 minutes or so. Then by noontime, we're going to expect to see a few 80s inland. Some of those 80s translating to low 90s around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Around the bay, we're looking at 70s, 80s, and by the coast, 60s, 60s even through parts of the bay, mainly through San Francisco. Take a look right here. We'll start off in the North Bay where we're just a little cooler. 82 in Santa Rosa, 80 in Novato, 83 for Napa, 65 for San Francisco, and 67 for Richmond. The South Bay into the 80s today, could potentially get up to 90 for Morgan Hill. The East Bay ranging from about 70 in Oakland to 93 in Livermore, 92 in Antioch. And a look at your 7-day around the bay. We're going to warm it up a bit as we head toward the weekend. Then we're going to cool it down yet again as we head into Sunday, Monday, especially cooler Tuesday into Wednesday. 10:19 is the time right now. Let's go check on traffic with George.
Right, the time now is 10:31. Getting a live look here at Walnut Creek. Plenty of sunshine, very few cars, so it's nice in the traffic department. Nice in the weather department, too. Actually bearable, you know, instead of that 100-degree plus heat.
That's right, bearable 91 degrees today, so we could call that bearable. And a little later this weekend, we're going to get a little warmer. So let's take a closer look at another shot for you. SFO. Want to show you SFO because earlier we saw lots of cloud cover, delays on arriving flights. That's no longer the case. We are seeing a little bit of sunshine still. Looking at fog just rolling off the hills right there. 55 degrees at SFO, so still chilly and a cooler day in store. 67 will be your afternoon high, and by 8 o'clock back down to 58 degrees. So pretty bearable. In fact, a little cool for my taste, actually, later this afternoon. So let's get a look at today's forecast. We're going to start off on Storm Tracker 4. Actually, we're going to fast forward to Futurecast 4, except for the end of the 10 o'clock hour. We're expecting 60s around the bay, 70s with a few 80s. By noontime, we're expecting 80s for the most part and could even see a few low 90s squeezed out through the San Ramon Valley, the Livermore Valley, and the Delta as well. So look at all your forecast highs today. Santa Rosa, you'll be at 82, 80 for Novato, 67 today for Richmond, 65 for San Francisco, 73 for Vallejo, the South Bay into the 80s, reaching 90 for Morgan Hill, 70s, 80s, and 90s for the East Bay, and the South Bay into the 80s and 90s, 64 in Half Moon Bay today. A look at your 7-day around the bay. You'll see right here, we're going to warm it up a bit tomorrow through Saturday, then cool it down just a touch on Sunday with a much cooler forecast in store as we head toward the weekend, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, bringing a little more cloud cover and much cooler temperatures. Daria.
All right, thanks a lot, Evelyn. 10:30. All right, let's get our final peek now of the weather and see how these temperatures are heating up. Hi there, Ev.
Good morning, Dar. We're taking a look right now outside at the Golden Gate Bridge, still dealing with foggy conditions. Traffic moving okay across the span, though, but just whiteout conditions right now. That fog is a bit compressed this morning, so with that, lower visibility, but we are expecting things to mix out later this afternoon. Inland spots already clear. Around the bay and the coast, a little foggier, a little cooler. 56 in San Francisco right now, 62 by noontime. Your afternoon high, 65 degrees. By 8 o'clock, back down to about 58 degrees. So let's get right to Futurecast 4, down in business, and you'll see right here, 60s for the most part, starting to see 70s inland, a very different picture into your inland spots. Could see 80s, potential 90s by 12 o'clock, and then by 4 o'clock this afternoon, topping out into the low 90s through your inland valleys. Around the bay, expecting 70s, maybe squeezing out a few low 80s, a few 60s as well on the coast. Little cooler, little cloudier, of course, expecting 60s for the most part, and that's about it. So let's take a look at temperatures. We'll start off in the North Bay. You're really going to feel a difference through the North Bay today. A big cool down in store. Still seeing fog through the Santa Rosa Valley, 82 degrees later this afternoon. 78 in San Rafael, 65 in downtown San Francisco, 67 in Richmond. The South Bay into the 80s, could potentially reach 90 for Morgan Hill, and the East Bay into the 70s, 80s, 90s as well. Could get up to 93 Erie and Livermore, so not as hot, but still pretty warm out there into your inland valleys. We're going to warm it up a little more so as we head into tomorrow and then cooling it down into the work week. So a fabulous weekend for you, but a cooler work week in store, only expecting 80s inland, 70s around the bay, and 60s by the coast. Daria.
All right.